Alright, I want you to think about the food you know, the dishes and cuisines that have spread everywhere. How did it happen? What were the circumstances that led all of us to know about Lebanese shawarma but not, Ugandan Rolex? For a food to break through, it takes a lot of things to go right or wrong. And even then, it's not enough. Something has to trigger a big bang. And while over the last 50 years that's happened for almost every country in Asia, there has been a giant hole on the map. Until perhaps right now. All of a sudden, in one city, a place where we happen to live, Burmese food is having a moment. Dishes that previously belonged only to migrants and refugees are suddenly found on the trendiest tables, and even on the menus of popular upscale restaurants. And it's transforming everything from Bangkok's dining to its famous nightlife scene. So today we're diving in, revisiting the food of Myanmar to find out what's changed and why this amazing stuff might be coming for you next. In the 1870s, as the United States rebuilt after the Civil War, a new economy took shape, with innovations in technology transforming America into a land of opportunity, or at least a place with a lot of available factory jobs. To that point, the number of Italians in the country was around 25,000, or just a 20th of 1% of the national population. Over the next 4 decades, that number would increase to more than 4 million. The new arrivals came primarily from Italy's south, war-torn and long oppressed, and when they came, most of them came with almost nothing. After passing through Ellis Island, some would move on looking for work, but the vast majority stayed in New York City, in the worst part of Manhattan, an area once home to Irish gangs known as the Five Points. Today we call it Little Italy. Now, I bring this up because it's always said that those Italian immigrants introduced their food to America, which led to its worldwide popularity. But that's not the whole story. The truth is, for a generation, those migrants would live separate from society, existing in their own parallel country, working the lowest paying jobs and just scraping by, and nobody else cared about the stuff they were eating. It was migrant worker food. It would take a full 25 years after the start of mass migration before the first Italian restaurant opened outside their own community. The year was 1905, and the place would be called Lombardi's, selling a dish they Americanized as tomato pie. This would build a small following, and over the next few years, Lombardi's cooks would fan out across New York, opening more pizza parlors, and soon enough, as second-generation migrants assimilated and learned the local language, they'd view this as a way to start their own business. Within a decade, pizza was known across the United States, and then it started its global takeover. This is not a path unique just to Italian cuisine in America. Over and over, when migrants arrive somewhere new, it might take years and years before something hidden in ethnic clusters explodes into the mainstream. But when it does, there's no stopping what comes next. And this brings us to Burmese food. Since we launched OTR in late 2022, we've done 2 videos on Myanmar's cuisine filmed in Bangkok. This is a city where as many as 2 million Burmese workers are living, and their food has been one of the best-kept local secrets. The first video we did explored the incredible dishes hidden in plain sight in Bangkok's poorest enclaves. The second time, we spent a day at the seafood processing factories in Samut Sakhon. Now, it took work to find the best stuff, but both times we filmed, we did see signs that there were people trying to break through to the mainstream. First, it was Kalyana, a humble Burmese restaurant that had just rebranded, trying something never done before, targeting Thais and foreigners instead of migrants. Next shoot, it was a Burmese-owned brew pub, sneaking a few Myanmar dishes onto a burger and fries menu. But today, suddenly and without warning, those kinds of places are the norm, not the exception. And just like New York in the 1910s, this city can't get enough of this fascinating new cuisine. This is a place called Rangoon Tea House, located in Bangkok's posh Thonglor neighborhood, and open, like most of the places we're going today, for just a few weeks. In fact, only about 20 days at the time of this taping. There was buzz from the very beginning. I mean, after all, this is an offshoot of perhaps the most famous restaurant in Yangon, honored by Asia's 50 Best and listed as a must-see by international publications. But because of the war at home, Rangoon Tea House started looking for locations abroad, hoping customers might accept their elevated takes on Burmese classics. And Bangkok's foodies have certainly responded. It shouldn't surprise you to know that the owner of this place is a celebrity in Myanmar's culinary world. His name is Tet, and he's been in this business since opening that first location in his home city 10 years ago.
So for me, the word we use for the last 7-8 years is always celebration, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor or you have somewhere to stay or you don't. We celebrate the small things, right? You celebrate your birthday, you celebrate anniversaries, and for us, when we look at Burmese food, it's too large. I cannot generalize and say we serve Burmese food, but we can celebrate the culture of eating. And that's what Rangoon Tea House is. That's why you see really authentic dishes. You see some dishes which we've created just for this. But you also see that throughout the space, from the decor to the way the team treat each other and the guests, everything is a celebration for us. So I wanted to emphasize that.
Rangoon Tea House is one of a handful of new restaurants that have changed the local perception of Myanmar's food. Many of them only open for a short amount of time. And for Tet, well, that poses a challenge, but also an opportunity. For better or for worse. And I don't mean to put you in an uncomfortable spot by saying this, because none of us want to view ourselves this way.
Right.
But you're the vanguard, right? Like, this generation is the first real ambassadors to the outside world of Burmese cuisine.
Right.
First of all, can you just talk about that in general and how you hope or expect? You know, to me, this is one of the world's great food traditions.
Right.
I'm obsessed with Burmese food. Everybody who watches this channel knows that I'm obsessed with Burmese cuisine and how all the different sort of regional variations. But to take that next step of now not just leaving Myanmar and servicing the migrant workers, but introducing it to the outside world.
Right.
How do you feel about that responsibility?
Okay, so I'm a Burmese guy. Let's say I wanted to open an Italian or a Japanese restaurant, right? You can find great designers, you can find chefs that have had years of experience. You can go on Pinterest and find some pictures and ChatGPT and find how to put a menu together. But when you're talking about Burmese food and Burmese restaurants or anything around our kind of culinary culture, no one's done it before you, so therefore there's two sides. The hard side is that because no one's done it before you, you don't really have a direction. But I think when you learn to enjoy that, it's pretty fun, to be honest, because
And the other side of it is that there's no customer expectation of the music you need to be playing or the costumes that people to have hanging on the walls or things like that. So there is some freedom in how you choose to introduce it.
Course.
So how do you choose to introduce Burmese food? You have a very interesting menu.
Yeah, so tea houses for me, when we opened 10 years ago, one of the reasons why we did it is because when I was interning at one of my previous jobs and we had a lot of guests coming in, so we're talking people who work for NGOs or diplomats or people from large organizations from other countries come to Yangon. Always the end meal, which was the celebration, is always at an Italian or a French or a Japanese restaurant. Why shouldn't it be at a Burmese one, right? So for me, I want to look at it from the perspective of, firstly, the culture behind eating. I want you to come to a Burmese restaurant and think, you know what, I'm going to reward myself or reward the people around me by eating Burmese food. That's the first. I think the second, when you're talking about menu, that's why I love tea houses. In tea houses, there's no such thing as a wrong item on a tea house menu. So you can go from something really authentic, you should eat, which is like a mohinga, which we've had from day one. But then we have a lot of grilled dishes where we've taken inspiration from different parts of the country, like Kachin State or Shan State. But then there's some new items on the menu for Bangkok, like burrata with mutton and tea leaves, which is basically us having fun and interpreting it in that way. And I think when you have that whole variety, it's pretty fun, to be honest.
All right, now when Daria and I moved to Bangkok from China, one of the most exciting things was the chance to try Burmese food, something even as a chef and living most of my adult life in Asia I'd never experienced. So I remember checking Google Maps for a Burmese restaurant and finding 4 in the entire city, and I know that's the number because we tried all of them in our first 2 weeks. Now, as it happened, of course, we'd start to realize there were a lot more than 4. Hell, there was basically an infinite amount of street carts and small diners, and they were incredible, just so unknown that they were literally not on the map. If you do that same search again today, just 3 years later, you'll see a very different picture of Bangkok's Burmese food scene. Dozens upon dozens of new restaurants have opened across downtown in the best neighborhoods, ranging from local spots to upscale dining to a rooftop gastro bar. All of these new places, well, on the surface, it doesn't really make sense. Why now after decades of massive numbers of Burmese in this city? Well, let's go back to Rangoon Tea House. Remember how I said it started across the border? Well, it turns out that's a common thread. Shui Tea opened here after a successful run in Shan State. Burbrit, the brew pub, was once known as the first craft brewery in Myanmar. And even this place, which we found in another video filmed in Klong Toi Market, well, that was a chain of massive cafeterias in Yangon, and those are just a few examples. I guess it does make sense that Burmese food would start to catch on when so many of the country's best chefs all of a sudden popped up here, pretty much simultaneously. But again, why now? Why, after so many years of culinary anonymity, has this all happened just since our last video on the topic? Well, for that answer, we need to look across the border. This is Aung San Suu Kyi. She's the president of Myanmar. Except she's not, because on February 1st, 2021, just after she won a landslide election promising reform and freedom, she was arrested and deposed by the country's military, which seized power in a coup, reigniting a 60-year-long Burmese civil war. Now, 2 years ago, the conflict could basically be described as the military under this guy, he's the villain, facing off against the vast majority of the general public. There were protests and demonstrations followed by massacres and bombings, and things were bad. But since then, it's gotten much, much worse. The very short version is that way back in 2023, the military government was backed by a coalition of a half-dozen militant groups coming from different parts of the country, along with quiet support from China and a few other anti-democratic states. The people, Aung San Suu Kyi's coalition, well, they were represented by her own party's militia, along with rebel groups armed with smuggled weapons, student organizations, and bands of ethnic minorities, factions representing people like the Mon, the Karen, the Pa'o, and the Kachin, along with the majority Bamar. Now, basically, right after we made that first video, the military found itself on its back foot, losing control over much of the country and hemorrhaging support from allies. And in response, like a cornered tiger, they lashed out, turning military aircraft against their own people, destroying infrastructure and shutting down communication networks. But the good guys were winning, or so it seemed for a brief moment. The problem was in the vacuum left behind by all the destruction, many of the groups on both sides of the war. Well, they began fighting each other, not just their supposed enemy. With the military losing its grip on power, their alliances splintered. China pulling its support instead of betting on the wrong side. Coalition partners denouncing the dictator, and on the other side, groups and provinces and sometimes individual towns began defending whatever they had left, fighting not for an overarching goal but simply for survival, and in some cases for breakaway independence. It became almost literally every man for himself, and with such carnage and chaos and no organized sides to supply, the outside world basically told Myanmar, okay, you're on your own. Good luck. The whole country devolved into sectarian violence, and as much as I wish there was another chapter to the story, well, that's about where it stands right now. Now, as this relates to food, here's the point. In the past, most of the 4 million or so migrants from Myanmar came because they didn't have any other choice. They were refugees at the bottom of the economic ladder, mostly from the minority provinces where the fighting was worst. But when things got bad and the violence reached the major cities, well, that brought a different wave of arrivals. Industry and tourism professionals who had no choice but to change public perception of their cuisine. And that brings us to our next meal. This is Tanaka, open for about 18 months right next to Bangkok's tourist hub of Nana. In better times, the three partners owned a tour agency in Mandalay, with offices in France and England, spending their days bringing foreigners to a country that they themselves have now had to leave. But that experience taught them that there was potential in introducing their cuisine to the outside world.
I used to live in Paris. Okay, so that is one of the ways that I survive by cooking. And not a restaurant, but I cook for friends, like Ono Khao Sui, that everybody loves it. So we just need to promote and we just need to introduce to as many people as possible. And there I have no doubt that people will hate it. No doubt. No doubt, the people will not hate it. So they will love it, and they just need to know the taste, and they just need to be familiar with Burmese food. So I have such a confidence that if we can grow, and if we can introduce more to the people, then Burmese food will be more and more popular.
So somebody who's watching this, who's never even considered the opportunity to actually visit Myanmar, maybe never thought about it as a country. How would you explain it? How would you describe the country to somebody on the outside? It's a big question, sorry.
It is. It is. Well, the country itself, it's the biggest in Southeast Asia as one piece of land. And we have a variety of geography. We have snow-capped mountain, we have sea, we have such a long history, and the people are really smiling people and very good-hearted people. Unfortunately, right now, our country situation is a very bad situation. So that is the reason why I am here in Thailand. So I never thought of staying in abroad and doing business of my own. I have been always in the tourism, and I always love to show my country to other people. As for the country, we have variety. It's a diversity of people, diversity of culture, and everything. So I'm sure our country has such a potential and such a lovable place to come back to visit again. But for the time being, there is a war, like everybody knows, and for different reasons that people should come and visit Myanmar in a good time, which I hope coming soon.
That's really good. Boris, before I take a bite, I want you to see what this looks like when I kind of cut into it. So you see if we got that on camera. Am I positioning this correctly? Let's give it a try. With leek root. Everything's great, but different. Different is probably the operative word when it comes to describing Burmese cuisine. And honestly, this might be the biggest reason why, now that this is going mainstream here, it seems destined to spread quickly around the entire world. See, here's the thing about food. If you look at the things that really take off, it's not just the dishes, it's unique flavors and techniques that can be absorbed and adapted to suit any palate. Like, just look at how many directions pizza has taken since 1905, or how different cultures have put their own spin on curries or tacos or sushi. All of us in the culinary world, and I spent almost 20 years cooking before we started this channel, well, we all want things we can play around with, and Burmese food is full of stuff that's just wildly unique and different. I wish, in my time in the kitchen, I'd known about things like pickled tea leaves and chickpea tofu. This stuff is just begging to be added to an artist's palette. Burmese food is unique in the entire world, and it should be. Again, look at all the neighboring influences. It's not sweet like Thai food, subtle like Chinese, or spicy like Indian. The local palate leans, if anything, salty and sour, with a ton of funkiness. Fermented ingredients from fish paste to preserved lemon, used in everything from soups to salads to curries. There's massive regional diversity, as you'd expect in a country stretching from the Himalayas to the southern tropics. But one thing almost all of it has in common is by far, the world's most obsessive focus on texture. Everything has some kind of surprise. Hell, you'll often find a half dozen textures in one single dish. I mean, this is a cuisine with crunchy salads and chewy soups, and it's just like, I don't know how to describe it. It's Burmese food. And it's not just the bordering countries that have put their stamp on local cuisine. I mean, the same ethnic diversity that's caused so much tension, well, it's also brought a lot of unique food, with ethnic tribes unique to the country, each with their own specialties, and some dating back literally thousands of years, just waiting to be discovered by the outside world. It's the kind of thing that as a chef makes you want to play around, to take these ingredients and techniques and add them to your arsenal. And as Burmese food has started to be introduced to Greater Bangkok, the home of some of the world's best chefs, well, that's exactly what's happening. And this brings us to our next meal, at another of the city's trendiest venues, maybe the first to incorporate Burmese food into a decidedly non-Burmese menu. All right, so this is maybe of all the places that we're going to visit today, or that we've already visited, this is the most fascinating when you talk about the progression of Burmese food towards sort of the outside world, because this is not a Burmese restaurant. This is Luca, which is a place that me and Daria occasionally go for a brunch when we don't have to work and we can just throw down a bottle of champagne or a few cocktails. Oh my God, forget how strong it is here. This is a really trendy spot, to the point where it's so busy that we have to come here when they're technically closed because they're booked out. So they're just about to open for dinner service. and they were nice enough to accommodate us and let us get in just a touch early. And the reason we came is because of this. So on their menu of like, all your favorites, your grilled meats, your brunch items, kind of greatest hits from around the world, there's Lepetok. And this is very much not presented for a Burmese crowd. This is presented because it's a great dish that fits in on a menu, and they do theirs in a very elevated way with, I believe, grilled cabbage along with the fermented tea leaves and the crispy split peas and all the amazing things that make up a Lepetok, which, in fairness, is not a crazy idea. It is something that should be on menus like this. There's a lot of Burmese dishes that should be on menus like this, but this one actually is. And I think lots of credit to this restaurant for doing it, and this is one of those things that's been on their menu for quite some time, even though they do change dishes sometimes. And this is, again, just grilled pork. So yeah, we are going from here drinking. That's the rest of the shoot. There's a whole bunch of new Burmese beer gardens. We'll see if the weather holds up and lets us actually explore Pratunam as much as we want to. There's a really cool kind of, upmarket nighttime Myanmar area that we're going to go walk around next after a stop at our friend's Burmese craft brewery. But this is a place that you go to get a drink along with your food. So the night starts now. Let's try the Lepetok. All right, so what are the ingredients, no pun intended, that allow a cuisine previously unknown to join that rarefied list of stuff familiar everywhere? I mean, sure, Burmese food might be taking off in Bangkok, but this is only one city. How do we know what's coming next? Well, there's no way to be certain, but there are a few hints of what that might be. First, and maybe most importantly, the food is good. I mean, it's really good and not like anything else. Now, obviously, a lot of places have great cuisine that's undiscovered. But the second factor is that Myanmar is a huge country. It's massive, with a population the same size as Italy. And just like Italian food, which took 25 years to break through after 4 million refugees arrived overseas, well, it's been pretty much exactly 25 years since Burmese citizens began leaving, at least in big numbers, with the first wave fleeing between 1997 and 2004. And again, like that old story about pizza, it's the second generation, growing up in a new country absorbed into a new culture, who are opening some of the new restaurants. Places like Kalyana, again the first in Bangkok to target non-Burmese, owned by someone born in Bangkok to migrants from Myanmar. And Bangkok matters too. There are Burmese refugee centers across the planet, from Bangladesh to Malaysia to Fort Wayne, Indiana. But for a spark to light a global match, it has to happen in a place where trends are set. And Bangkok is a city that sees tens of millions of tourists and is home to major multinational companies. We've already seen food trends spring from here just in the recent past. Like New York and London and Los Angeles, when something finds itself front and center in this city, it's gonna get noticed by people from everywhere. And there's one more factor that seems predictive of widespread success. See, if you make a list of the stuff that's gone global, things like, of course, pizza and mukata, along with recent favorites like Ethiopian food and Korean barbecue, there's a social element. Things meant not just to be enjoyed, but to be enjoyed with friends or family. I mean, new stuff is a lot more exciting when it's not just delicious, it's fun. And this might be the defining characteristic of how Bangkok is actually discovering Burmese cuisine. See, while until now Burmese food outside the country has generally been found at street stalls and migrant worker restaurants, the actual culture inside Myanmar, Well, that revolves around hours-long meals at massive tea houses and nights out at the country's famous beer gardens, where the salty and sour Burmese food is a perfect match for a good time. So after a quick stop for happy hour at Burbrit, getting ready for the evening with a pint of Rangoon Blonde, well, we're going to take a drive to visit a part of Bangkok that is rapidly turning into a thriving and jam-packed Burmese bar street. All right, now maybe Phetchaburi Soi 15 isn't the Las Vegas Boulevard or Lan Kwai Fong, but it's still pretty cool. I mean, an honest-to-goodness bar street with loads of options for sitting outside with a cold beer and listening to live music. The area where we are is part of a neighborhood called Pratu Nam, one we covered in its own video as Bangkok's electronics and textiles hub, packed with traders and immigrants and tons of hotels, located right at the end of the airport express line and one of the busiest places in the country when it comes to foreign travelers. It's a true melting pot, just the kind of place where something might catch on and reach a global audience. And with nearly 24 Burmese restaurants and beer bars in just this small cluster, well, as that cuisine spreads, I mean, this is ground zero. But as much as the outside world now gets to see Burmese food and culture on lively display, for the people here, well, it's been a long road. The first place we stopped, Mandalay Food House, well, before it became popular and expanded to more and more venues, it was something of a community center for displaced refugees. And there are a lot of those in Pratu Nam, where at the factories owned by Thais, Indians, and Japanese, migrants from Myanmar since the early 2000s have clustered here to work the lowest paying jobs, sewing clothes, stocking warehouses, and hauling merchandise. For them, this was a place of survival, somewhere to start again from the bottom, and that goes for the restaurant staff too, like our friend Pooh, who holds a postgrad degree in zoology, and the first manager we met here 2 years ago, who in his hometown was a banker, a hometown that's now destroyed. For all the Burmese here, the food, this music and atmosphere is a sense of home, reclaiming something lost, but it's also a reminder of how much things have truly changed. It must be a strange feeling seeing your cuisine become fashionable and trendy only because your home country is such a mess. For those Italians in New York City, was it a feeling of pride or of something lost? Same with the Vietnamese who introduced their food to Los Angeles after being chased out by Ho Chi Minh's Communist Army. The Cantonese whose dim sum and wonton soup only spread after the Japanese attacked Guangzhou, and on it goes. Take one more look at those dishes we all know, and what you see is a story of success, but it's complicated. And we'll probably never know how complicated it actually is, and how much even a fun night out must be a reminder of how much things have changed. As just one example, in those actual Burmese beer gardens, well, the drink of choice was the national brand, Myanmar beer. Except that beer, with its 80% domestic market share before the coup, well, like everything else, it became a political flashpoint, with the brewery connected to the oppressive army and a national boycott declared, and bar owners in some cases forced at gunpoint to buy the beer, then attacked and vandalized by rebels for selling it. But for the people here, those circumstances are just one more thing out of their control. So they sell Chang or Heineken, or even try to make their own, and just do whatever it takes to make the best of the hand they've been dealt. And I guess in some ways that makes bars like these a sign of defiance and survival, with our acceptance of the food less important than the simple act of just existing, persevering in the face of all that's gone wrong. All right, let me see if I can put a coherent thought together on beer number 4. But I have to, because I'm certainly not going to be able to after beer number 4, 5, 6, whatever comes next. I think for me, the most exciting thing about being here in this area and seeing this restaurant's 2 months old. Like it's 8 weeks old. They just opened. All the places on this street are brand new, that we're going to see tonight, or if you were to come to Pratunam, you're going to see a neighborhood that is aggressively changing. And I think what's really cool about it is that the places that are opening are not what we showed you a year ago. Even the last time we did a video on the Burmese workers in Bangkok, Boris, when we were taping in Klong Toy Market not that long ago, every time we talk about Myanmar, we're talking about, refugees and migrants and people who left a horrible situation at home. And I think what gets lost in there sometimes, and this is my own fault as much as anybody, what gets lost when we talk about, Myanmar is that it's a real country. It's a real place. People don't feel sorry for themselves, right? They want to go out and have a beer, watch a football game, eat some food. And I can't even imagine how thrilling it must be for people who are here and can't go back home to finally be able to see what they really missed. I'm sure it's one thing to have Burmese food represented as a street cart in a back alley. It's another thing to see it start to be front and center. Right next door, there's a gigantic, Thai restaurant just like this. And here, this is Burmese. And you go down the street, and it's now 2 or 3 more just like this that are Burmese, but the customers are foreigners and Thai and from Myanmar. And really, I think if there was one thing that a refugee would hope for, it's for their own culture to be normalized. And what's really exciting to me is how normal this is. And I think we can see the trends sort of forming here. And that is literally the limit of how philosophical I can be on beer number 4 after that cocktail as well. They make their own beer here. This is Yo-Yo Lai Lager. It's a work in progress. It's a work in progress, but it just needs a little carbonation. It'll be fine.
When you come to a Burmese restaurant of any variety, whether it's our tea house or whether someone else's high-end restaurant or a street hawker, Burmese food is about culture, texture, flavor. It's about celebration. Nothing will be small in portion. Everything will always be generous and very colorful and very vibrant. So I would say when you come to a Burmese restaurant, come with an open mind. I know for sure you'll find something on the menu that suits you.
The majority of my Western clients and Thai customers, and their feedback are quite good. But I'm so glad that that is the food which they are not familiar with. But when they try it, so they give a feedback, they give a recommendation because they really do like it. So then their feedbacks are really good.
So if somebody's never tried the food from your home city, from Mandalay, just before we finish and then I'm going to eat, what would you say? How can you explain the food of Mandalay?
Perfection. Myanmar is really proud and feeling grateful because this is who they are love our, If we cannot love our Myanmar people, sure they definitely not come this place. This is the kind of love Myanmar people and then kind of love Myanmar food. So Myanmar say, "Go you me about it." It's really like proud and happiness and happiest. Yes.
When people in Thailand, mostly Thai citizens, think of Myanmar people, they think of migrant workers, migrant workers and food. Food is like oily food, not a lot of flavors. And we wanted to give them that idea of Myanmar food can be
Elegant.
elegant, yeah, like this.
Look at this.
Yeah, like this.
Boris, are you ready to eat like 9 dishes? All of this is on your shoulders, Boris. I can't. Like, I can't. I've already I've loosened my belt. I've unbuttoned the jeans. There's the next step for me is to just take the pants off altogether. I have nothing else that I can do. Boris, this is now your responsibility. Subscribe to the channel for more from OTR. Thank you so much to everyone who supports us on Patreon. It really helps to keep us going. Find links below to our Patreon and social media, and we'll see you soon. So I think this is the first time ever on OTR that I have been scared. I'm honestly, I'm worried. I think my calculation right now needs to be what will I not be able to bring home. The biryani, as great as that looks, that'll make great leftovers, so I might put that aside. The lepetok, the little bit that's left of what I actually ordered, that can hold off, and this, I'm gonna try it, but this is what Daria just ran 30 kilometers, just her little nighttime jog. So I can bring this home for her. I don't think that the tofu nui or the mohinga is gonna hold. And so that has to be what I eat. This is my favorite. You watched the first Burmese food video we did. You know that this entire thing started with this dish. This was what blew my mind. This was the life-changing dish for me. I am overwhelmed, intimidated, terrified, and not drunk enough yet. So let's continue with that. There's ice in it. I like that.